There are ways to change the Chief Architect program to make it as convenient for you as possible. For instance, you can customize your toolbars, you can change your preference settings, or you can change the way your side windows look. I want to make some changes in the preference settings, but before I do, for the purpose of demonstration, I want to draw some rectangular polylines. Then we'll go to the Preference Settings tool. You can get to this by going to Edit and down to the bottom for Preference Settings. That Preference Settings icon is here in your toolbar. There's a few changes I want to make here that make it easier for me to work, but preferences are really personal preferences. You'll set up the preferences for how you want to work with Chief Architect. These are saved globally. It does not matter what plan you have open. When we make these changes, they will remain until we change them again. The first thing I want to do is uncheck the box for contextual menus. But first, let me show you what a contextual menu is. I'll go ahead and click OK, and then I'll click on one of my polylines. When I click on my polyline, you can see down here at the bottom that I have another set of tools. These tools here at the bottom are the edit tools that are specific to the object I have selected. If I right-click on that object, I get the same set of tools in the contextual menu. In this contextual menu, it gives me the name of each one of the edit tools that I can use. However, if I use the edit toolbar at the bottom and just hover over any one of these edit tools, the name of the tool will pop up. And the right-click option can be used for a lot of different things in Chief. So in my preference settings, I'm going to uncheck contextual menus. Then I'm going to change the way the toolbar works. Right now it's on drop-down. All of the tools that you see here with a small arrow next to it are parent tools. If I click on the drop-down for my Door Tools parent tool, the drop-down of the child tools shows up right underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and draw a wall, and then I'll place a door by selecting the Door Tool parent tool and selecting a doorway, a framed opening. When I click on the wall and place the door, you'll notice now that the parent tool icon has changed and looks very much like the Window Tool parent tool. So in my preference settings, I want to make a change and use the Child Tool palette instead. I'll go ahead and click OK, and you can see now that my parent tools look a little bit different. There's still a small triangle indicating the parent tool. However, when I click on one of these tools, the drop-down doesn't appear underneath the tool. The child tools will now show up here on the left side in my tool palette. I'll go ahead and select the Doorway tool again and place another doorway. But you'll notice now that the parent tool icon doesn't change, so it's not as easy to get lost in your toolbar. We'll go back to those preference settings and make a couple of more changes. Under the Appearance category at the top, I'll click on Colors. This is where you can change the handle fill color and the selection fill color. If I select something in my screen, you'll notice that the object highlights in gray and I get edit handles on each of the sides and the corners, as well as the Move edit handle in the middle. So back in my preference settings, under Colors, I want to change the color of the handle fill color. Here, I'm going to use a very bright green. For the selection fill color, I want to use a pink color. I use pink because pink is not used for very many things in Chief Architect. However, I want to lighten this up, so I'll use the bar at the right side here to lighten and darken. I'll move this up to get a soft pink and click OK. If I click OK now and then select an object, you'll notice now that my edit handles are bright green and much more obvious, and the object is pink, making it more clear what object I have selected. We'll go back to the preference settings and then go down to the General category. Here you can change the number of files that Chief will save for use when using the Undo tool. With this setting, I can undo 50 building steps. You can also decide to display the startup options or not by unchecking this box. Here you can change how the dialog's size and positions will be saved. Under File Management, under Auto Save, you can change the frequency with which Chief saves a backup file. You can also change the number of recent files that you see in the initial Recent Files list. You can also change the number of files that will automatically save before the Auto Archive warning dialog will pop up. Under Time Tracker, Chief will record the amount of time you're working on any individual plan. If you walk away from your computer for 5 minutes, it will display the idle timeout dialog. I'm going to uncheck this box so that that display does not pop up. Under Architectural, I want to uncheck the box for Select Room Before Wall in 3D. If I'm in a 3D camera view and I click on a wall with this checked, it'll actually select the room that wall is in. With this unchecked, it'll select the wall first rather than the room. Under the Edit category, you can change the appearance of your crosshairs. For instance, right now my crosshairs are blue. Blue is used for a lot of things in Chief, including your dimensions. So here I want to change my crosshair color to orange, which is not used often. I'll darken it up a little bit and click OK. You can also determine if you want your crosshairs to go 100% across the screen or a smaller percentage, or if you don't want crosshairs at all, make this a 0. You can also add an aperture size. I'll go ahead and click OK now, and you can see that my crosshairs cross all the way across my screen, right and left, and from the top to the bottom. And I have no aperture setting. If I go back to Preferences and go back to Edit, I can add an aperture size. I'll go ahead and type in 30 and click OK. Now you can see that where the vertical and horizontal crosshairs come together, there is a space that's 30 pixels wide in my screen. Some of the preference settings have toggle tools here on the right side toolbar on your screen. You can learn more about all of the preference settings in additional online training videos. On some machines, if you hover over the Preference Settings button and then hit the F1 key on your keyboard, it'll bring up the online help database right to the section that describes the Preferences dialog and what each of the settings in the Preferences dialog does. On some computers, the F1 or function keys are programmed to do specific tasks, but you can always click on the button to launch help and then do a search in the search bar for preference settings.